So this next section is probably going to be your favourite because food labels are so confusing. So we're going to make them easier to understand for you. So when we look at a food label, we want to check 3 different things. 1, we want to look at the ingredients list. 2, we want to look at the nutrition information panel, which I'll teach you in depthly how to look at today, and nutrition claims as well. So looking at your ingredients, having a look on this slide here, you want to learn your ingredients. So you want to look at high fat, high sugar and high salt ingredients and try not to have any of those in the first 3. The first 3 ingredients in our food are the ones that are in the highest amounts. So these characterise the food. So we don't want any of these to be high in fat, high in salt or high in sugar. So what they do is they try and hide things in the ingredients list so we can't find them. So we need to know what all the ingredients are called. So for instance with sugar, rather than put water and then sugar right there and you think, oh that's very high in sugar, it's in the first 3 ingredients, they get a bit more clever and they might split it up into the different types of sugar. So there might be glucose, dextrose, sucrose down here, fructose, which is fruit sugar, similar thing, maltose, lactose. And if we don't know the names for all of those, then we don't know that there's a lot of sugar in that product, unless we read the nutrition information panel. So the nutrition information panel is compulsory for all packaged foods unless they're less than 10 centimetres squared or it's a single food product such as tea, sugar, that type of thing. The other exception is if they make it and they hand it to you. So a hamburger from a fish and chip shop or something, for instance. Apart from that, it'll have a nutrition panel. And a lot of them, you'll notice, are very, very small. So the ones on chocolate tend to be the tiniest and most difficult to read. I wonder if that's a coincidence. So what we're looking for on the nutrition panel, they give us details on a whole range of different things. Serving size, how many serves we get per package. Energy, so energy is just all of the calories from all the different sources, all in one. So that's what energy means. It doesn't mean it's going to give you a lot or not very much energy physically. It's a bit of a different thing. Protein, total fat and saturated fat, total carbohydrate and sugars, including added and natural sugars, and sodium, which another name for sodium, as you probably already know now, is salt. So we get this information provided to us per serve and per 100 grams. So what we want to look at is rather than the per serve, because what you eat for a serve might be different to what I eat for a serve. And for instance, a serve of chocolate is, 10 grams. Well, who eats 1 square of chocolate and puts a block away? I don't know anyone who does that. So per serve is not very useful. But we want to look at per 100 grams because all of them have per 100 grams and then we can directly compare product side by side. So we're always looking at per 100 grams and there are 4 things that I want you to remember and look at when you look at a label. The first thing is fat. So I want you to remember fat, total fat, less than 10 grams per 100 grams. That's pretty easy to remember, isn't it? Less than 10 grams is reasonable. Less than 3 grams is actually low fat and ideal. So less than 10 grams for fat. Saturated fat, we just want it to be as low as possible. So if you've got a couple of different things and they're identical in their nutrients and one's lower in saturated fat, that's the one that sticks to your arteries and blood vessels, we'd choose that one. The next one down is sugar. So fat less than 10 grams. Sugar, same thing, easy to remember, less than 10 grams. So there is one little catch. Some products might be a lot higher in fruit. So if it's a really fruity muesli or it's yogurt with lots of fruit in it, fruit does have sugar in it, yes, but it has a lot of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, antioxidants in it as well. So if the fruit is in the first 3 ingredients, then we can go up to 25. Does that sound fair? But it can't be if it's this, that, the other, and the apricot's 0.01% down the bottom. That doesn't count. So we've got fat less than 10 grams per 100, remember? Sugar less than 10 grams, unless it's fruit, then it's up to 25, less than 25. The third thing is sodium, so salt. If you have high blood pressure, we want to try and keep salt low, but it's good for the rest of us as well. So we say less than 400 milligrams per 100 grams. And then fibre keeps us full and satisfied, good for our bowel health, good for reducing the risk of bowel cancer, and also helps with our cholesterol levels. Fibre, more than 5 grams if we can per 100. So let's have a look at a couple of examples, some breakfast cereals to start with, and we'll see how we go with that. So have a look at this example of a breakfast cereal. So remember, we're looking at the far right column per 100 grams, and this is a breakfast cereal. So in this example, we've got fat, total fat 0.4. Now remember the numbers we were talking about before? Have you got them written down? Less than 10, 0.4, that's a tick. Moving down now to sugars. So we don't look at carbohydrate, total carbohydrate, and we also don't look at protein, because a food like something like All Bran, which is generally good for us, might be very high in carbohydrate and have almost no protein. A piece of meat might have a lot of protein but very little carbohydrate. Doesn't mean it's good or bad for us, they're just two different types of foods. But what we did say we look at is sugar. So looking down here per 100 grams, and we've got 14.5 grams of sugar. So remember, we want less than 10 grams. So that's not ideal, is it? What about the sodium? 536 milligrams. Well, we wanted 400, didn't we, or less? So that doesn't get a tick either. And the last one, fibre. We wanted more than 5 grams. This one here only has 2.5 grams. So that doesn't get a tick. So basically we only get 1 tick out of 4, and we wouldn't expect it to be high in fat anyway as a breakfast cereal. So that's not ideal. So what is this breakfast cereal? It's Special K. Now this is a classic example of marketing. The Special K, she comes back from her run and she's full of energy and she sits down and she eats her breakfast cereal, and you would expect it to be high fibre and meeting all the criteria from the way that the ad seems. But unfortunately, that's a good example of marketing. Looking now at our next breakfast cereal, what do we think about this one? So remember those numbers. So for this one here per 100 grams, we've got total fat 3 grams. That's a tick, it's low fat, it's under 10. Sugars 13.6, that's a little higher than we'd like. Sodium 380, what did we want? Less than 400 milligrams? Well, that's a tick. And then fibre 29.5 grams. So that's definitely more than 5, isn't it? So this thing gets 3 ticks. Almost the fourth one. The sugar was just a little bit higher, but overall it was a pretty good food. Which do we think this one is? This is All Bran. Did the fibre give it away? And one last breakfast cereal here. So fat, we've got 0.4, so that's fine, 1 tick there. Sugars 36.5, and what do we want? Under 10. That's not a tick. Sodium 564, we want under 400, no good. Fibre 1.2, it's too low, isn't it? So we did very poorly with this. And what is this? Cocoa Pops, just like a chocolate milkshake, only crunchy. Well, people feed this to their children. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet the criteria that we would want for a healthy product. The other thing is, a lot of the nutrients are missing, so they're sprayed on. You can see there in the ingredients list, they're all added at the bottom there. So we want to try and choose foods that are as least processed as we can.